It's Market Day Report. Hey, we're so glad you're with us to start another trading day. Let's start by looking at how the markets finished up the session yesterday and last night in the overnight session. Let's go to soybeans. It's a good place to start, right? 3 1/4 higher in the overnight action, 10.09 3/4, and this follows a higher move yesterday. The entire soy complex settling in higher territory yesterday, including soy meal contracts, which were lower overnight, and bean oil, which moved higher in the overnight session with that May contract into 52 cents. Let's step back and hit corn now. Corn is coming into the session today with 2 winning streaks, and the December contract trading 4.17, 1/4 cent higher. How about the wheat market? We've been in those 5-year lows now in the wheat market. It was lower yesterday, and in the overnight session down 3, 4.95 3/4. Hard red in the overnight session 3.5 lower, 4.84 3/4. And spring wheat overnight lower. Finally, cotton market in the overnight session down 6 points, 63.70. He's the president, Midwest Market Solutions, Brian Hoops. All right, Brian, no weekly export sales report today. I actually went back and looked just to see, and the latest numbers mid-September, so not much help there.
Good morning. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of help out of that export markets, and that's a disappointment, especially for corn. I thought, once the government shut down, it hurt the corn market probably the most of anything because that's where we had most of our bullish news. We had private export sale announcements, strong weekly export sales, and now we don't have any of that due to our government shutdown. Now we will have weekly EIA report a little bit later this morning, and so we'll get a look at ethanol demand. That's something the trade will be watching closely. Of course, crude oil stocks will be watched as well. But corn had a last couple days we reversed off of some lows, and it's been on the case of fund buying. They've bought over 22,000 contracts in the last 2 sessions alone. A lot of short covering developing. Maybe we're getting close to seasonal lows. We should be close to about 50% harvested there. Soybeans should be over 60% harvested. So those markets are likely putting in their seasonal lows. Maybe we can start to move higher from this point forward. A lot of the farmers are making good progress, storing as much of the crop as they can. A lot of that other crop gets sold onto the open market in the form of overrun bushels, gets sold and then reowned on paper. So there is some of that happening, probably widening the basis out in the western belt, especially where the crop's a little bit larger than what we see in the eastern belt.
All right, Brian, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll pick up the conversation with livestock. Market Day Report continues in a moment. It's Market Day Report. Okay, we don't trade livestock futures in the overnight session, so how did we finish yesterday? Let's start live cattle. Live cattle futures are on a 9-day winning streak. Yeah, 9 days. And October up 45. Of course, it's chasing the cash trade, 242.27. But the December 246.65 up 15. Yeah, I know those deferreds, the 2026 contracts were lower, but at this point, I'm kind of focusing on the front months there. And feeders lower yesterday, 380.85 on the November, down 47. Hog trade yesterday was higher as we're trying to work our way off of those 2-month lows. December 83.47, 32 higher. Brian Hoops is with Midwest Market Solutions. Brian, again, pretty impressive 9 straight days of wins with those front months in the live cattle.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Most of the session we spent lower money, trading lower, trading over $1 lower at one point before some short covering lifted us into the closing bell. Really disappointing that we haven't seen any type of cash trade or even bids at this point. The Fed online auction was held yesterday, and we saw no bids on it with some 241 ask out of Texas, and so really no trade there. It's hard to find any bids at all in the country. 240 plus is the asking prices, and I imagine we're going to see at least 240 trade once it commences, but the trade is trying to figure out exactly where that's going to be. We've dialed in at least a couple dollars higher cash trade this week with October futures trading up to the 242 area. Packer margins still deeply in the red, improving slightly because of the box beef turning higher, but they're still deep in the red. And now the slaughter pace is increasing compared to last week. So maybe those cutout values start to lag just a little bit. We did note that we had some deliveries on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, and that gave us a little bit of pressure on Wednesday's opening. We didn't see those deliveries again. We saw 7 retenders, and they were all taken out of RJ O'Brien out of Amarillo, Texas, with $1 added to it. So don't expect that that's going to give us a lot of pressure on the opening this morning like it did yesterday. But I wouldn't be surprised to see us have a little bit of weakness. And feeder cattle, in fact, had an inside trading session yesterday. So watch those lows. And if you take that low out, you could find some sell stops sitting below it.
Okay, I want to pivot for just a moment over to another market that's been red hot, and this is precious metals. Gold market higher 4 straight sessions. 42.40 is where we are this morning. Any final thoughts here on gold and silver?
Those markets just continue to push higher. It's huge demand from retail buyers, hedge funds that are stepping in and buying this market. At some point, you almost have to believe that these prices are getting expensive, and they'll look for other commodities which are cheap and want to reload or restock their inventory with cheaper commodities that have potential to continue to go higher. You may look at corn, wheat at 5-year lows being very cheap historically. Those type of markets may benefit from these inflationary type markets continuing to move higher and showing some really strong gains this year.
Yeah, when you step back and look at where we've been over the last 6 months, that's when it's really impressive, both gold and silver, with some great chart action there. Brian, great to see you. Brian Hoops, Midwest Market Solutions.